Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This little tree here, it's a FIcus Microcarpa. It has had a rough life since I took it as a cutting. It was I put it in a clump. I mean, back when I took the cuttings, they were maybe a little less than half this size, or around half the size of the trunk that the trunk is now. Tried to do a little fusion project with about maybe 3 or 4 other ones. Over time, I just kind of noticed that it would get some healthy branches and some kind of sickly looking branches. And then eventually I noticed that the middle part was rotting out, and I pulled them all out, but 2 of them. And then actually the other twin that this one was with also rotted out, and I pretty much just had it in this pot and done almost nothing to it since. Just kind of cleaned it up here and there, mostly defoliating it and letting it build up a bunch of energy. Because I would like to start developing it. I think today's a good day. It's it's early spring and everything. I'm just going to get in here, take out all the unwanted twigs, and I'm also going to get some wire on it. Should mention I don't have a playlist for this tree or the other one I'm going to put in this video today, but I'm going to put some links in the description from their previous videos. If you do go back and look, most of those videos are semi-short, although some of them have like more than one tree in them. Some of the progress on some of these smaller trees is interesting to go look back and see the size that they were at that time. Alright, I was about to start talking while I was working, but every time I do that, I do start some incomplete thoughts. I've read, with certainty before that when you have, flexible limbs like this, and then you cut the growing tip off, that this will start to lignify. But I've never really read anything that, gives me any kind of concrete evidence that it happens right away. But I'm going to do something that might even just help me out a little bit mentally as I work on these trees. And I feel like, I've let these go nice and long so I can get some turns in there. And like right now, like as I move it around, it feels nice and flexible. And then what I've done in the past is I've come through, nipped all these growing tips off, and then put the wire on there, and then wind up snapping the branches. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the growing tips of the branches I've decided to keep. I have looked at these 2 branches. I'm not sure if I want to keep both of them and try to wire them in a little bit of a better place, or cut this bottom one off, or I was even thinking about just cutting the top one off. But I'm going to wait until I kind of start working the wire a little bit so I can see where I can place the other branches in relation to these 2. And I think before I do too much, I am going to work this. I got the apex started on this side. There's some healing here, and then there's some rotting there. I'd like to cut that back to live wood. Alright, and then if I do wind up having to use that spot for some wire, I don't know that I already did that. Maybe even get this little piece here. Alright, so I got that taken off there. And I have been looking at it and decided that this branch I think is drooping a little bit too much here. Alright, and like I said, I think that the idea of these lignifying so quick after you cut the growing tips off might be in my head, but I was able to get some pretty good movement, and none of the branches snapped on me like they seem to do when I do that. One thing, I think I have kind of semi-tried this idea before. One thing is, like this one, I knew I wanted to shorten some, and I kind of had it in mind when I came up here too. And there, but some of them, I don't even have one, let me show you on the other side here, just some of these kind of out of instinct and habit, we put the wire all the way to the end, but you know, the branch doesn't really care if it's cut by wire cutter or pruner. And so I'll just cut the wire and the growing tips off together. Alright, and that first part of the video was April 12th, and here we are, May 16th. Coming back quite nicely. And while I got it in here, just go ahead and rub off a few of these unwanted buds. And I'll let it go wild until I'm pretty sure that wire's starting to cut in a little bit. And then probably go ahead and give it another hard prune and take the wire off. I think this should be really looking nice by about midsummer. Alright, and then there's this little guy here too. I've left this one alone pretty much about the same amount of time as the other one, and I don't know if it's obvious to you guys as it is to me. The leaves are much bigger. I had this in a little bit of shade at one point. This one really had some rough looks on it through the winter. And a couple times I just kind of moved it deeper and deeper into the shade until it started recovering. And then once it started recovering, I just never really got it back out of the shade. Mainly because I've been doing some rearranging in the backyard, and I wasn't really trying to make any moves until I got some new pallets and rearranged some cinder blocks. Cut some wire off, just a little wire that one branch that I left on here. I had taken most of it off because I had it on the smaller branches and it was biting in a little bit. It wasn't so much on this bigger branch. And so I'm going to take that off before I do much else. And I think I can knock the rest of that off as I prune it. Alright, so I think I'm going to go ahead and let this guy pretty much recover from here. Wanted to give you a little bit of a closer look. And as I've been looking at it, I kept this at one time. I think I was actually maybe making something sinuously long out this way with it without all this other stuff on here. But I do think I'd rather keep these two as a couple side branches and make this the apex. Just simply because I don't really know what I'd really do with that going that way. And so I'm going to go ahead and take that off right there. I may repot this one this summer, I'm not sure. It did have, I keep using the excuse that some of these had a rough hurricane and that's why I'm not repotting them. It's been in 2.5 years now, so might be time I go ahead and fix it, but a lot of these trees kind of went through a little bit of emergency repot, and that's why they've kind of been in recovery mode. They got beat to death, and then also just a quick repot that really wasn't all that well thought out. But we'll see. And here we are again about a month and 4 days later. I like the looks of both these trees. Can't wait to get this into something a little bit nicer, maybe in a little bit of a nicer pot. It really does have an old look to it. Especially with the big wound there. I like to leave it alone for a little while longer, just kind of while it's looking nice and healthy now. I could get some wire on it, but these branches are still, you can still see just some slight scars from where that wire was on there the last time. And they're pretty still, you know, small with no taper, you know, not much to it. There's taper here, but not between here and here. So I'll just let all these kind of get a little bit longer, let this apex kind of develop a little bit better. And then, you know, again, probably this one, maybe midsummer or something like that, come in, give it some wire, just looking at some different angles. I do like that angle with that showing, but then the tree's kind of going away from you. But I'll worry about all that. In the summer for now, just let this guy go for a little while and see how it turns out.